The mahogany-paneled conference room felt smaller than usual, filled with the suffocating presence of my entire family. They were all there. My 3 older siblings dressed in their calculated versions of morning attire, my parents in matching black, and various aunts and uncles who hadn't bothered to visit grandfather when he was alive but somehow found time to attend his will reading. "I still can't believe he's gone," my sister Victoria dabbed at dry eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. She'd already posted 3 Instagram stories about her grief, carefully filtered to highlight her designer black dress. I sat quietly in the corner, wearing a simple black suit that none of them recognized as bespoke Italian. To them I was just Sophie, the youngest, the quiet one, the disappointment who'd never lived up to the Marshall family name. "Nothing to say as usual, Sophie?" My brother Alexander smirked. "Though I suppose there's not much to contribute when you've spent the last 5 years as what? A secretary?" If he only knew that the secretary position they mocked was actually a cover. That while they were busy spending grandfather's money, I was actually running his entire empire from behind the scenes. "Let her be." My oldest brother James waved his hand dismissively. "We all know why we're here. Grandfather's company needs proper leadership now. Someone who understands business." I bit back a smile, thinking of the merger I'd orchestrated just last week, adding another $1 billion to the company's value. The same merger they'd read about in the Financial Times but hadn't bothered to connect to their unsuccessful sister. My mother touched up her lipstick, ever camera ready. At least Sophie had the decency to work at the company even if it was just filing papers. "More than I can say for the rest of you." The irony of her attempted defense made my chest tight. For 5 years, I'd maintained the illusion they all so readily believed. The quiet daughter who'd taken a minor position at Marshall Industries after college. They never questioned why grandfather had insisted I attend every family dinner, never wondered why his health improved dramatically after I started working for him, never noticed that the company's value had tripled under his supposedly solo leadership. The door opened and Arthur Wells, grandfather's personal lawyer for 40 years, walked in. He carried a single leather portfolio and wore the same inscrutable expression I'd seen him maintain through countless board meetings. "Good morning," he said, taking his seat at the head of the table. "We're here to read the last will and testament of Theodore Marshall." Victoria straightened in her chair. "We understand the company's shares will need to be distributed carefully. As the oldest daughter." "All in due time, Ms. Marshall," Arthur cut her off smoothly. He caught my eye briefly and I saw the faintest hint of a smile. My phone buzzed silently in my pocket. A message from our Tokyo office about the Asian market opening. I'd have to deal with that later. After my family discovered exactly who had been steering the Marshall ship all along. "Before we begin," Arthur continued, "Mr. Marshall recorded a video message to be played at this reading." The flat screen on the wall came to life, and there was grandfather, looking as commanding as ever in his favorite leather chair in his study. I'd been sitting across from him when he recorded this, just 3 months ago, both of us knowing his time was growing short. "My dear family," he began, his voice strong despite his illness. "If you're watching this, I've finally lost my battle with time. But I'm not worried about the future of Marshall Industries. Not anymore." Victoria preened, clearly expecting what was coming. James and Alexander exchanged knowing looks. 5 years ago I made the best decision of my career. I chose my successor. Someone who showed not just business acumen, but true understanding of what it means to lead. Someone who was willing to work silently, learn every aspect of the company from the ground up, and put the business before their own ego. My siblings were leaning forward now, each probably imagining themselves as the chosen one. "While you've all been attending charity galas and spending your trust funds, this person has been working 18-hour days, learning every division, earning the respect of our board and employees. They've been CEO in all but name since my cancer diagnosis, though we kept that quiet for strategic reasons." The room had gone very still. I could feel the shift in energy as they started to realize this wasn't going the way they'd expected. "Sophie," grandfather said, and suddenly every head snapped toward me. "Take care of my life's work. You've more than proven yourself." The video ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. I straightened my shoulders, finally allowing myself to sit the way I did in board meetings, with quiet, assured authority. "Shall we continue?" I asked Arthur, using the same tone I'd used just yesterday to close a $100 million deal. He nodded, opening his portfolio. The reading of Theodore Marshall's will shall now commence. The dominoes were set. Time to watch them fall. This is ridiculous, Alexander burst out, his face flushing red. Sophie? She's just a glorified assistant. Arthur pulled out a stack of documents, his expression remaining professionally neutral. Actually, Ms. Marshall has been serving as Chief Executive Officer of Marshall Industries since January 2020. All major decisions, acquisitions, and strategic planning for the past 5 years have been under her direct leadership. Victoria's perfectly manicured hand clutched her pearls. That's impossible. She brings coffee to meetings. An effective cover, I finally spoke, my voice carrying the same quiet authority I used in boardrooms. It's amazing what people will say when they think the person serving coffee is irrelevant. James jumped to his feet, his expensive suit wrinkling with the sudden movement. I've been running my own investment firm for a decade. I'm the obvious choice to lead Marshall Industries. You mean the investment firm that lost 40% of its value last quarter? I raised an eyebrow. The one that would have collapsed if not for a mysterious angel investor who bailed you out? His face went pale. How did you? I was the angel investor, James. Through one of Marshall Industries' subsidiary companies. You're welcome, by the way. The room erupted in chaos. My mother had to sit down, her social media perfect composure cracking. My father kept opening and closing his mouth like a fish out of water. Arthur cleared his throat. If I may continue, the will is quite specific. He began reading, his voice clear over the family's confused murmuring. To my granddaughter Sophie Marshall, I leave 51% controlling interest in Marshall Industries, all voting rights associated with said shares, and complete executive control of all subsidiary companies. This is a joke, Victoria shrieked. She can't even dress properly. She's wearing off-the-rack suits. I smoothed my hand over my Tom Ford custom suit. Armani, actually, Victoria. I just never felt the need to show off labels. Unlike some people, I prefer to let my work speak for itself. Arthur continued reading, seemingly immune to the drama unfolding around him. To my remaining grandchildren, I leave trust funds to be managed by Sophie, with distributions contingent upon their active participation in company operations, should she choose to employ them. Alexander's face turned an even deeper shade of red. Contingent? She gets to decide if we get our money? Perhaps, I said calmly, you'd like to see what you've been mocking for the past 5 years? I pulled out my phone, sending a quick text. The wall screen came to life again, this time showing real-time data from Marshall Industries' global operations. Stock prices, acquisition details, merger statistics, all bearing my signature. The Singapore merger last month? That was me. The tech startup acquisition that tripled our market share? Also me. The mysterious restructuring that saved 3,000 jobs during the pandemic? My decision, my execution. My mother found her voice. But you never said anything. All those family dinners where we talked about the company. Where you talked about me, you mean? I corrected her. About how I was wasting my potential. How I should try to be more like Victoria with her social media influence, or Alexander with his trust fund lifestyle, or James with his failing investment firm. The room fell silent again. I was exactly where I needed to be, I continued. Learning every aspect of the business from the ground up, earning respect through work rather than birthright. Grandfather recognized that potential in me when none of you did. Arthur pulled out another document. There's more. Ms. Marshall has also been serving on the boards of 12 other major corporations under various aliases. Her total net worth, separate from Marshall Industries, is approximately. Victoria fainted before he could finish the number. My phone buzzed again. Tokyo needed an immediate decision on the market fluctuation. I stood, buttoning my jacket with practiced ease. Arthur will provide you all with the necessary paperwork. I have a company to run. I paused at the door. When James? The board meeting you've been trying to schedule with the CEO for the past month? You can have it right now. I have exactly 15 minutes before my call with the Prime Minister. The next 48 hours were exactly what I'd expected. A hurricane of reactions, revelations, and realizations that left my family's perfectly ordered world in chaos. I was in my real office. Not the small desk they thought I occupied, but the corner suite on the top floor of Marshall Tower. when Victoria burst in, bypassing my security with the sheer force of sisterly entitlement. You can't just. This isn't. She sputtered, then stopped dead when she saw me behind grandfather's historic mahogany desk. The desk where I'd actually been sitting for the past 3 years, though family photos had always been carefully staged in front of the old one downstairs. Did you need something, Victoria? I asked, not looking up from the acquisition proposal I was reviewing. I have a board meeting in 20 minutes. The board? She laughed hysterically. You mean the board that's going to shut this farce down? James is already gathering support to contest the will. I finally looked up, allowing myself a small smile. You mean the board that's been working under my direct leadership for 5 years? The same board that watched me turn our $2 billion company into a $15 billion global empire. I pressed a button on my desk and the wall of screens behind me lit up with real-time data from our worldwide operations. While you were building your Instagram following, I was building this. But you're just. She gestured vaguely at me, her designer bracelets jingling. The quiet one. The shy sister. The family disappointment. I stood straightening my suit. No, Victoria. I'm the CEO who just closed a deal with Saudi Arabia this morning that's worth more than all your social media endorsements combined. My phone buzzed. Alexander probably. He'd been calling non-stop since discovering that his favorite nightclub was actually owned by one of our shell companies. My company now. Mrs. Chin from the Asian Market Division is here, my assistant announced through the intercom. Send her in, I replied, then turned to Victoria. You can stay if you'd like. See what your little sister actually does all day. Mrs. Chin entered, bowing slightly. Ms. Marshall, the numbers from Singapore. For the next 15 minutes, Victoria sat in stunned silence as I navigated complex international trade agreements, made multi-million-dollar decisions, and spoke fluent Mandarin with our Asian partners. Her expression shifted from disbelief to shock to something that looked almost like respect. After Mrs. Chin left, Victoria seemed to find her voice again. Does Mother know about all of this? Mother is currently trying to explain to her social circle why she never mentioned her youngest daughter was named Forbes' most powerful woman in business last year. I smiled. Though in her defense, the article used one of my aliases. The intercom buzzed again. Mr. Marshall is here to see you. Which one? I asked, though I already knew. Your father. I nodded. Send him in. Father walked in like a man entering a stranger's house. Tentative, unsure, his usual confidence nowhere to be seen. His eyes darted around the office, taking in the awards on the walls, all carefully hidden during family visits. The clear signs that I'd been running the company from this room for years. The London office called, he said quietly. Apparently they need your approval for something. They said you're the only one who understands the full scope of the European expansion. The Cambridge project, I nodded. I'll handle it after my board meeting. Cambridge. Victoria perked up. But that's a multi-billion-dollar development. The news has been talking about it for months. Yes, I know. I designed it. Father sank into a chair. All those times we tried to set you up with suitable business partners. I was usually already their boss, I finished for him. Though watching them try to mansplain my own company's strategies to me was rather amusing. The intercom buzzed once more. The board is ready for you, Ms. Marshall. I stood gathering my files. You're both welcome to attend. See what the quiet one really does. The boardroom fell silent as I entered. These men and women, some of the most powerful people in global business, stood respectfully. They'd learned long ago that my quiet demeanor masked a steel core and brilliant mind. The numbers from Asia are exceptional, I began, taking my place at the head of the table. Though I expect nothing less from the team that helped us weather the pandemic without a single layoff. I could see Victoria and Father in the back, watching as I commanded the room with the same quiet authority I'd inherited from grandfather. The same authority they'd dismissed as weakness all these years. 3 hours later, after securing unanimous approval for our European expansion and setting new growth targets for the next quarter, I finally had a moment to check my messages. Mother, darling, I had no idea. The ladies' auxiliary is absolutely buzzing. When can you speak at our next luncheon? James, we need to talk. My firm's major clients are asking about you. Alexander, about that nightclub ownership, Can we discuss terms? And one from grandfather's old friend, the Prime Minister. Ted would be proud. You've exceeded even his highest hopes. I looked out over the city skyline from my office window. Somewhere out there, my family was still reeling, still adjusting to the reality that their quiet little Sophie had been silently building an empire while they were busy underestimating her. My assistant knocked gently. Ms. Marshall? The news channels are all requesting interviews. They're calling it the Silent story. I smiled. Tell them I'm too busy running a company to discuss how I run the company. After all, I hadn't built this empire by talking about it. I'd built it by quietly, persistently, brilliantly doing the work while everyone else was making noise. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's just the sound of someone focusing on what really matters. And sometimes the quiet ones aren't quiet because they have nothing to say. They're quiet because they're too busy changing the world to brag about changing the world.